Hello, my friends. It's Courtney here from flynnknit. And I've been doing a lot of teaching lately of knitting classes and thought it might be helpful to go back to one of the most basic skills and fundamental skills in knitting, which is how to cast on. So for those of you who have never tried knitting before, or if you just need a quick refresher, I hope you find this tutorial helpful. Okay, so today I'm going to show you the long tail cast on method, and for that we just need one needle to get those stitches onto, all right? And it's called the long tail cast on method because we're going to start with a long tail, you guessed it. And there's a bunch of different ways I've seen knitters like almost calculate the length of how much of a tail they're going to need. I've seen people wrap around their finger, like say you need 5 stitches. So you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that gives you, okay, this amount of length that you need to cast on. Or you could wrap it around your needle, do the same thing. If you need 20 stitches, you might wrap it 20 times to get an approximate length. Whatever method works for you. For our purposes today, I'm just gonna get enough slack over here, maybe say 20 inches or so off to the side, just so we can practice. And I keep my ball of yarn over to the right. So you just wanna have your tail end off to one side and your ball of yarn off to the other. And I'm gonna leave a little bit of slack here so I can work with this. And you can see my yarn is draped over on top of my needle, which is perfect for getting us started. So I will just pick that up, and sometimes I like to describe this as almost like a fishing pole or something. You have that yarn draped over your needle or your pole, and what you want to do is use your left hand and come in and grab the yarn that's draped over your needle with your 3 fingers. This is how I do it. It doesn't have to be how you do it, but I like to grab it with those 3 fingers. And I'm grabbing it, say about 2 to 3 inches down from my needle. I'm not grabbing it way down here because it would be harder for me to work with. Grabbing it pretty close to my needle. And I have my index finger holding this yarn that's on the needle just so it doesn't slip off the tip, okay? That's just kind of where my finger goes to protect it from falling off. If that works for you, that's great, okay? So you're holding your yarn with your fingers, and I'm spreading out my index finger and my thumb because I'm going to use them to open this little door, as I would call it, this yarn door, to get my fingers in there, okay? So I'm holding here, and I use my thumb and index finger to open that door. So now all I've done is just open those 2 strands of yarn, okay? And what you want to do now, I'm not going to change anything except for the position of my left hand, okay? I'm going to flip my hand so my thumb is up. So I call it like the flip up or the thumbs up. Everything stays the same. All I'm gonna do is flip up, thumb up, okay? So I was here, I kept my fingers spread apart, the other 3 are holding the yarn down below, I just flip up, okay? Because this gives us a better vantage point of where we're going right now, which is to scoop up or pick up this strand of yarn that's wrapped over our thumb. So I'm going to use my needle and come from under here and scoop up the part that's on my thumb. I'm not taking it off my thumb, but I'm just getting that piece of yarn onto my needle, that strand onto my needle, okay? Now I'm gonna rotate my hand slightly to bring my index finger a little closer to me because what I'm going for now is this strand of yarn that's wrapped over my index finger. And I'm going to come from underneath and I'm gonna scoop this guy up, all right? From underneath. Not letting it slip off. I'm keeping my fingers spread apart still. And he's scooped up, okay? Now what I want to do is bring that piece of yarn that I just scooped up through that space, that hole that's created around my thumb. So I'm grabbing that needle and I'm pulling it through the hole on my thumb. And from there, once it's through that hole, I can let my thumb drop off and my index finger I can pull out of that loop, and I'm still holding on with those 3 fingers, and I pull it pull those stitches onto my needle, and I've just cast on 2 stitches. Okay, so that is the first step, my friends. Okay, so the first time that you cast on, you're gonna end up with 2 stitches. And then every time after that we repeat the technique, you are just going to add 1 stitch, okay? So it's just the first time when you get the 2. Every time after that will just be 1. And we're just repeating the same maneuver, okay? Over and over again, my friends. So here we have those 2 stitches. We have our yarn attached to our ball over here that I move off to the side with a little bit of slack here. And we have our tail over here, okay? So now I've got the stitches already on, so they're kind of hanging over like they were in the first time we did this. I'm gonna come from underneath again. I'm going to grab the yarn with those 3 fingers. And again, I'm like, I don't know, 2 to 3 inches down from my needle, not way far down, closer to my needle, but not too close, okay? I'm gonna open up my thumb and index finger, and I'm gonna use them to open the door to my yarn there. And I'm gonna move these stitches a little bit closer to the tip of my needle so it's easier, okay? So there they are, holding that yarn open for me. All I'm gonna do is that flip, okay? Thumbs up. So I'm not changing anything else. I'm just simply flipping my hand, okay? It was down here, flip it up. Now you can see this yarn is where we're going, okay? So I'm holding these stitches on so they don't slip off, and I'm using my tip of my needle to go under and grab that strand of yarn, but I'm not letting it slip off my thumb. I'm holding it there, okay? Now I kind of rotate my hand back because now the yarn I'm going for is the 1 strand that is near my index finger. It's wrapped over my index finger. And I'm gonna come from underneath and scoop him up like that, okay? And now that space between my thumb, the yarn that's right there, that hole that's created, I want to grab that yarn that I just scooped up and bring it through that hole. And then I can let my thumb come out and my index finger can come out, and I'm just going to pull the part that I was holding with those other 3 fingers. And that created a 3rd stitch. So you're just going to keep repeating that process over and over until you get the number of stitches that you need for your pattern. And that's all there is to it. And practice makes perfect, my friends. This is not an easy skill to learn, but the more you do it, the better you will get. And I wish you all the luck in your knitting. Follow me on Instagram at flynnknit to see what I'm working on next.